Reiki 101. It's a brief overview and just to give you as much information as possible, share my experiences. And by the end of this program, you'll definitely be able to tell others about Reiki as well. So thank you for joining.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And how about you? I'm not sure of your name as of yet, but you're on Carol's iPad. May I have your name? Oh, okay. You're not muted, but I can't hear you. Let's see. Feel free to use the chat feature if you're familiar with that. He's definitely not muted, but we still can't hear. That's okay. So the chat feature is at the top. If you click on the header, as you go up to the top of the screen, the header comes down usually, and to the right you have chat. Feel free to write a message in there, because I'd love to know more about you and your interest in Reiki as well. Alrighty, so I'll go ahead and get started with the slides, and I'll check for the message. Thank you. Alrighty, what is Reiki? There's several different definitions of what Reiki is. It can get really complicated, or it could be very simple. So I'm providing the detailed definition, but I'll also share my personal definition of Reiki as well. So Reiki is an ancient Japanese healing technique. It's an energy healing system, a healing technique based on the principle that the therapist can channel energy into the patient by means of touch to activate the natural healing processes of the patient's body and restore physical and emotional well-being. The Usui Reiki system was founded in Japan, early 1900s, by Dr. Mikao Usui. Reiki is a form of alternative medicine, alternative therapy, commonly referred to as energy healing. It emerged in Japan in the early 1900s, and it is said to involve the transfer of universal energy from Reiki. And I think I repeated that again, my apologies. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I actually wrote that twice. But yes, as mentioned, it was founded in Japan, and it made its way to the United States in the 1970s. And now you can actually find Reiki practitioners in hospitals. Started actually in New Jersey. They were bringing in Reiki masters to help during surgeries, to help to expedite the healing process. And you can also find Reiki practitioners in animal clinics now. So Reiki is becoming more well-known and definitely more utilized in today's day, whereas before in the past, no one really knew what Reiki was. And I know the explanation or the definition that I shared earlier, it is kind of complicated, but I usually tell my clients or those that I speak to that Reiki is an ancient Japanese healing technique that helps the body on an emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical level. So Reiki energy is universal life force energy, and it's said that every living thing, including plants, have universal life force energy. So as a practitioner, you're attuned in training, and you're able to channel Reiki energy specifically for your client. What are some of the benefits of Reiki? Reiki can relieve pain, anxiety, and fatigue. A lot of my clients that reach out to me are dealing with anxiety-related symptoms, and a lot of chronic pain, so they're able to get some relief from that. Reiki can enhance the quality of life. I have a client, for example, who has nerve pain. She's in upstate New York, and as a result of receiving Reiki energy, she's able to feel more energetic and not have as much pain as she did previously. So she's able to get more done. She's actually able to work out for at least 10 minutes a day now, where she wasn't able to do that before. And she can walk for a longer period of time. So it definitely enhances the quality of life for many. Reiki can definitely help balance chakras. That's a pretty popular one as well. A lot of people aren't even aware that their chakras are out of balance or maybe blocked. So the Reiki energy is able to balance all of the body chakras. And if anyone is not familiar with chakras, feel free to let me know, and I can go into more detail of the 7 chakras. Reiki can help with pain in general, but I wanted to mention toothache. relief, because I remember I had a client that came to me for his regularly scheduled Reiki session, but he actually went to the dentist prior to coming to see me, and he was in a lot of pain. So that was an unexpected situation or pain that he was feeling. But as a result of the Reiki energy that he received during the Reiki session, he was actually able to feel relief, and he was no longer in need of the medication that his dentist gave him. So he was able to get pretty much a 2-for-1, I guess you could say. So it can help with toothaches as well. Reiki can also help with insomnia. That's a pretty big one too. A lot of clients will, come and say that they are unable to get a good night's sleep. And halfway through the session, I find myself having to wake them up because they're falling asleep, they're snoring, and they're so relaxed that in order for them to turn over, I need to wake them up. So that's a pretty big one, but you definitely feel a difference in the quality of sleep that you have. And you feel, clients feel more rested, and they feel refreshed when they awake as well. That's a common thing that I hear. And as I mentioned earlier with the hospital settings and the animal clinics, Reiki can also expedite healing. So whatever your body is currently in the process of doing and healing or recovering from, maybe a sports injury or surgery, Reiki energy can actually help expedite that healing as well. So Reiki has several benefits, but I wanted to mention, the core ones, the ones that would resonate most with the patrons. Reiki may also be used to treat headaches, tension, insomnia, as mentioned earlier, and nausea. I've had the privilege of working with different facilities, including a cancer organization, and I was able to administer Reiki energy to their patients as they were receiving chemotherapy. So Reiki can really help alleviate that symptom that's often felt with chemotherapy patients. So Reiki is pretty awesome. Any questions so far? No, not
I don't
yet.
know if this is a good time to ask, what is the difference between the Reiki and Jinshin Jitsu?
Oh wow, huge difference. Huge difference. And I'm not really. I mean, I have an idea of what that is, but I can't really speak clearly on it. But as far as Reiki is specifically energy healing, utilizing universal life force energy, and working in conjunction, I should say, to the body's 7 energy centers, also known as the 7 chakras. So it's completely, it's on a more healing system level than actual movement, if that makes sense. Thank you for that question. Anything else come to mind? Any other questions, Ida?
Oh, no.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
No problem, my dear. All right. What Reiki isn't? A lot of people, that aren't aware of Reiki, they've heard things or they think things. I just wanted to definitely include this slide because Reiki is not religious. It's non-denominational. Reiki is not a massage. I get a lot of people that have reached out and they're like, oh, do you also do massages with it? Reiki is not a massage or not massage therapy, and it's definitely not reflexology. And I also wanted to mention that Reiki is not a substitute for medical care. Reiki is a complementary therapy that should be done in conjunction to your regular routine, your regular care. You should still continue to see your primary care physician and any other specialists that you may be seeing. Sometimes people think that, because they're feeling better, they can now stop doing what it is that they were doing previously. And that's definitely not recommended. So I wanted to mention that Reiki isn't a magic wand or, a substitute by any means. Why and how did I become a Reiki practitioner? It's funny, can't really narrow down a specific year, but I do know that I had exposure to Reiki energy several times. I have a friend who's a masseuse, a massage therapist, and she would often give me massage sessions. And at the end, she would ask me if I wanted energy work, but she never called it Reiki. So I never knew it by name, but I would always opt to get the energy work, and I would, notice immediately the difference that I would feel. I was already feeling relaxed from the massage, but after she would lay her hands on specific areas, I would definitely feel a sense of relief, and I would feel more at peace. So I definitely realized that that was kind of one of my first exposures, or the first time I was exposed to Reiki energy. There was also another time where there was a Reiki practitioner that would come and visit the senior center that I was helping to run. And I would often slip off into her class just to receive Reiki energy. She would do Reiki circles with the seniors who were either experiencing Alzheimer's or dementia. And I would go and be a part of that group. And again, I would feel just a sense of deep relaxation and calmness and peace. And then I would go right back into, my work environment. But Reiki has really showed me many times that it can help kind of reset the body, reset your mind, and bring you back to that natural state of relaxation that we're really supposed to be experiencing. Being stressed all the time, worrying, all of that, that's not the natural state that our bodies are supposed to be in. So Reiki helps bring us back where we should already be. And especially in times like this, it's very difficult to do that on your own. So Reiki can assist with that. I started to actually go and specifically get Reiki sessions about maybe 6-7 years ago. And I remember lying on the table. I had 2 Reiki practitioners working on me at the same time. And one of them said to me, like, you're very sensitive to Reiki energy. You're very in tuned. Have you ever thought about doing this? And I told her, no, I was already in a field that I thought I would be in forever. It was already, over 20 years that I was in that field. So I didn't foresee any changes in career. So I thought, I didn't take her seriously. But it's so funny. I was speaking to a colleague, and I shared with her that I was interested in Reiki and learning Reiki. And she actually gave me the number for a teacher that she knew. And that teacher ended up being about maybe 15 minutes from my home. So I called that teacher, told her I was interested, and she told me that she had a class that following Tuesday. So I went to my first Reiki class there, and the rest is kind of history. It just felt natural, and I've been practicing for the last 4 years. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail as far as how you can become a Reiki practitioner and what it entails. What an in-person session is like. So I'm sure you're wondering how the Reiki energy is administered. So Reiki energy is administered through specific hand positions that you're taught in your Reiki classes. There are different levels to Reiki, and I'll go into that in a little bit, but it's non-invasive. Clients are fully clothed. It's usually in a small setting, small room with a massage table. The client lies usually face up at first, fully clothed once again on the massage table, and the practitioner lays their hands either on the body gently, or you can hover above, because there are some clients that are not comfortable with touch. And the Reiki energy still works. And even if there's a client that is unable to be on a massage table and, for example, is in a wheelchair, Reiki energy can still get to that person. They don't have to move or anything. They could stay exactly where they are in a chair, wheelchair, or even in a bed. But back to the massage table session. Start at the top of the head, and you work your way down to the client's feet, and then you have them turn over onto their stomach if they're able. Some clients are not. And again, starting at the top of the head, working your way to the bottom of their feet. And that's usually what a general Reiki session looks like. Of course, you can incorporate crystals if you choose, or if the client is asking, you can incorporate aromatherapy with essential oils. But that's what a general Reiki session is like. And again, fully clothed. It's recommended that you wear comfortable clothing, loose, comfortable clothing, and definitely have water on hand, because the Reiki energy helps to rid your body of what no longer serves you. So it's detoxifying and allowing you to kind of purge, like just get rid of what no longer serves you. So the more water you drink, the better. It assists with that. what is a distant Reiki session like? Has anyone heard of distant Reiki? Is anyone familiar with that?
No, but I would be curious, how does the transmission of the energy works how does it work long distance?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So, okay. And I'm sure I have a slide on this, but I want to definitely share this now. So there are different levels to Reiki, right? Reiki level 1 is really an introduction for you to learn what Reiki is, the origins, the hand positions. And Reiki level 1 is really a focus on self-healing, self-treatments for yourself. So Reiki level 1's homework really consists of doing daily self-treatments for yourself, getting to know how Reiki works for you before working on others. You can also start to give Reiki sessions to loved ones, family members, and friends. That's fine, but really, Reiki level 1 is all about you. Reiki level 2 is when you're actually taught sacred symbols. And one of those sacred symbols that you're taught is for specifically sending Reiki via distance. So with that sacred symbol, all you need generally is a person's picture, their consent, and you're able to send Reiki energy anywhere in the world. You could be in Brazil, you could be anywhere. I had a client reach out to me from Australia yesterday and schedule an appointment with me. So once you are attuned to Reiki level 2, you can send distant Reiki.
Interesting.
I know. So the best way to explain it is the same way how there are radio waves, right? The same way how sound travels. It's kind of hard to explain, but you know that it happens. That's the best way to explain a distant Reiki, because people are like, well, how? I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. But it's all about the intention behind it, right? So you're intending to send this person positive energy, and energy is white light. It's always for the highest and greatest good. You know, it's not negative energy, and it's really all about that intention. So once your intention is correct and you know how to send the distant Reiki via symbols, you know, the person is able to feel different sensations, and I'll go into what they feel as well, in person as well as via distance. I know that usually gets a lot of people there. They're like, what do you mean distant Reiki? What do you mean? So what does a client feel during a Reiki session? So I'll start with the in-person session first. So back to that client that's on the table, on the massage table, right? Usually clients feel a variety of different sensations, but I've heard a lot of different things. It really depends on the individual, in my opinion. So the most common experience, I would say, is warmth. You know, as the practitioner is working on the client usually feels warmth where the hands are. And they call that Reiki hands. Sometimes as a practitioner, you can feel that too. Your hands just get hot. And that's kind of how you know that the power, or the energy, I should say, has been activated, so to speak. So they usually feel warmth, but there are some clients that actually say that they feel coolness. And there are some clients as well that say they feel both warmth and coolness. So it's very interesting. But a majority of the time after the session is over, a client says that they feel like their head is in the clouds, but they feel good. You know, they feel calm and deeply relaxed. And a lot of them feel lethargic and sleepy, like they can stay on that table for the rest of the night. They don't need to go anywhere. So you definitely feel extremely relaxed, and some clarity of the mind. And if there's any chronic pain or any discomfort, dis-ease, you know, you let the Reiki practitioner know that, and they would focus on those areas too. And a lot of the times people will feel a shift in their energy as well, especially if you're dealing with maybe heartache, recent breakup, maybe holding a grudge and holding on to something that you can't let go. You're having difficulty letting go. You may feel lighter after a Reiki session, you know, depending on the areas that you share with your Reiki practitioner and the areas that come up. And that brings me to my next slide. What does the practitioner feel? I as well feel heat. I have not felt coolness yet. I have not felt the coolness that my clients have felt. I typically or generally feel heat from my clients. I also get sensations. So even with a client being not, you know, physically with me, I'm still able to pick up on different sensations. So if there's an area of the body that maybe there was a previous injury, or maybe they're having discomfort there, even if they don't tell me, I'm able to still pick up on that. As you go further and further along in Reiki, you become more and more intuitive. A lot of people are able to enhance their psychic abilities that they may have already had with Reiki, you know, but it just kind of naturally happens. You become more in tune with your clients, more in tune with the energy, and you're able to pick up on things. So a lot of the times clients will tell me, oh, my neck, I'm here for my neck, but they may notice that I'm lingering in their knee area or their feet. And it's not until they validate it for me and say, oh yeah, I forgot, I've been having, you know, pain in my feet. Or I had a distant client whose mother scheduled a session for him, and she didn't tell me that he had recent vaccines, injections in his arms for school. And, you know, I'm noticing that there's just discomfort in his both of his arms, but particularly the right. And it wasn't until I mentioned it that she validated that and confirmed that, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, my son went to the doctor's office and he is having pain in the arm. So a lot of the times clients won't even remember to share the areas that they need Reiki energy to be sent. But at the same time, please know that the Reiki energy is going to go where it needs to go. And even after the session is over, the Reiki energy is still working on that client. So, you know, you can have a specific area in mind, but where it's needed is where it's going to go. And I know that may sound weird, but feel free to ask any questions you may have about that or anything I just said. So in person, practitioner feels heat, different sensations. You can tell, you know, if there's stagnant energy, if energy needs to move, you can feel that in person, and you can also feel that distant, via distance. So it's pretty awesome. After Reiki level 2, where you learn the sacred symbols that I mentioned, there's advanced Reiki, which is kind of gearing you up for the next level, which is master. A lot of people stop at Reiki level 2, and that's where you're known as a practitioner. And you're actually able to start your own practice if you wish, and definitely work on others, friends and family, and not just necessarily focus on yourself like Reiki level 1. So Reiki level 2 is usually where people kind of stop because they got all the tools that they need. They have, you know, the knowledge, they're comfortable, they're experienced, and most of all, they are now trained to use the sacred symbols, so they can actually intensify and enhance the Reiki sessions. And they can also send Reiki energy anywhere to anyone at any time. You can even send distant Reiki to the past. You can send it to the future. You know, if you have an interview coming up, or maybe you're doing a presentation, you can actually send Reiki energy into the future towards that event and help you. And a lot of the symbols that are taught, for example, there's a power symbol. That symbol can be used in many ways as well. And I can get pretty deep with that. So let me know if you have any questions, or if, you know, but the power symbol, for example, you can actually use it. You can draw it on your car right before you leave, and, you know, just to encourage safety. You can use the symbols on your food, your drink. You can use a particular symbol to actually clear energy in the room. You know, maybe a negative event happened in that area, or maybe you just don't feel right in that room. You know, you just need to cleanse it, so to speak. You can actually use symbols for that too. So a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, they stop at Reiki level 2 and they don't go any further. But the fourth and final level for Reiki is Reiki Master. So you have the option of becoming a Reiki Master or a Reiki Master Teacher. And a Reiki Master Teacher is specifically for those who would like to teach someday. And personally, I did not have an intention of teaching, but I figured, you know what, let me at least have the title. So if I do decide at a later time to teach, at least I have it. And it wasn't until people started to ask me if I taught, you know, that I actually started to consider it. And before I knew it, I started teaching. But that was not my initial intention. Magda, did you have a question?
I did. So in so through your intuition, if somebody has a budding condition, medical condition, or a disease they are not aware of yet, would you be able to sense it? Maybe like,
No, that's not.
or maybe
That's
like
not.
some,
Yeah, that's more medical.
but like imbalances, you know, like imbalances in their bodies.
Most definitely, definitely. If the heart chakra is blocked, or throat chakra, for sure, that definitely comes up quite quickly. Actually, I was working on a client in California last night, and I could tell that her throat chakra was, you know, blocked. She needed some assistance with that. And that usually shows in various ways. You'd be surprised. Like a lot of the symptoms that people experience, they don't even realize that it's linked to a chakra and it's linked to something that's happening in their lives. So, for example, I find that a lot of my clients that don't speak up for themselves kind of keep things to themselves. They don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. That's called not speaking your truth, or that's referred to as not speaking your truth. So people like that tend to have blockages in the throat. They may feel like they have a lump in the throat, or they just don't feel right in that area. So I am able to pick up on blocked chakras or imbalances in the body, but nothing medical, nothing medical.
Thank you.
No problem. And of course, you know, clients, again, they'll share specific area, but then I'll pick up on something else. Like a client of mine in Delaware, she shared with me that, you know, maybe I think she mentioned she was just having back pain, but when I started working on her, I felt a lot in her eyes. And she's like, oh yeah, you know, I've been meaning to go to the eye doctor. You know, I do need new glasses. The prescription I have doesn't work. And so I have been experiencing pain in my eyes. I forgot to mention that. So, you know, things like that, I'm able to pick up on if there's discomfort or dis-ease, but not disease. You know what I mean? Nothing medical, at least not yet. But my intuition continues to grow, and I'm becoming more and more sensitive to my clients and picking up on things that they're not even telling me or not sharing at that time. And, you know, sometimes I even get intuitive messages. And that all comes with, you know, experience and working with Reiki energy continuously, you know, and some people aren't really ready to hear certain things, or maybe they're not open to it. So I ask, you know, if I receive a message or I feel like there's something I need to share. And when you hear that, I'm sure you're like, what do you mean receive a message? It could be something as simple as more self-care. Like I worked on a client, and after the word bath kept coming to mind for me. And I didn't want her to feel insulted. I didn't want her to feel like I was saying that she smelled. That wasn't it. It was just, I just felt the need to tell her to take more baths. And once I told her that, because I wasn't sure if I should, it resonated with her. And she knew immediately what that meant. She wasn't taking care of herself, and she loved to take baths. So sometimes you get messages that kind of remind that person what they need to hear. I was working on another client in Connecticut, and the word, or the name rather, Chris, kept coming up, and his name is Steve. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure if I should share that with him. And usually when I doubt myself, or I doubt that, there's usually a reason, you know, and almost always, I mean, I haven't had anyone say anything different yet, but whenever I do speak up, it resonates with them in some way. So when I told Steve about the name Chris, he's like, oh yeah, that's my best friend, and I haven't spoken to him in a while. Been meaning to call him. You know what? I'm gonna hang up and I'm gonna call him right after, and you know, reconnect with him. So, you know, you kind of pick up on more and more as you go along, and your intuition definitely grows as well as you go further in with Reiki. Next slide. How does the client feel after? I kind of already touched upon this earlier, but they feel extremely relaxed. That's the big one, and usually very, very sleepy. Sometimes I have to tell a client to, you know, either stay on the table for a little while, or have them sit up and plant their feet on the ground for them to get grounded again. Or sometimes even I've had clients that leave the office and they'll be in their car for like 30 minutes, you know. So I like to make sure that everyone feels stable, or feels grounded and not lightheaded, not dealing with anything before they leave my office, because they have to drive home, walk home. I want to make sure they're okay. So it's very important that you make sure they're grounded and just give them some water and give them time. You know, I'm known for letting my clients sleep as long as they want in the office or in the treatment room after a session. You know, there's no rush. It's okay. Safety is important, because, you know, especially if you're someone that's been working a lot, you know, maybe working midnight or overnight shift, graveyard shift, and you're just extremely tired. Naturally, the Reiki energy is going to make you sleep, because that's what you have a lack of. That's what you need. So it's whatever your body needs. You know, a lot of people will find themselves meditating after a Reiki session, or journaling, you know, using journaling as an outlet, or a way of releasing internal conflict or thoughts. So Reiki energy is going to allow you to get what it is that you need you know, and sometimes, a lot of the times, it's what you didn't even know you needed. You know, maybe you didn't know you needed rest because you've been going like a Energizer bunny all this time, and this is just your norm. But Reiki energy will slow you down and make sure that you rest, for sure. How to select the right practitioner for you? I'm very big on communication, and you know, I find that it's helpful when you speak to a potential client before booking or before a session. So I like to have what I call like a Reiki consult, you know, and see what's bringing the person to Reiki, and most of all, hear about their expectations, you know, because sometimes people will have misconceptions of what Reiki is and what Reiki can do. I had someone reach out to me. She just sent me a picture of a gentleman. He was working out at a gym, I guess. And then I got a text after, and she's like, you know, this is the man that I love, and I want him back. And then she called me. You know, she called me after, and I'm like, oh, hi. You know, she's like, yeah, I just sent you a text. I need your help. And I'm like, that's not what Reiki is about. You know, you know, you may need to go back to Google and find a different type of practitioner. So I find that it's really helpful to have that conversation, that initial conversation, rather than just allowing someone to schedule. See what it is that they are in need of. See what it is that they're dealing with, and see if Reiki energy can be of assistance before even moving forward. So again, communication is big for me. There are some people that don't want to talk; they just want a session, but I find that it's even better when you make that connection before. Find a practitioner that will allow you to speak and ask questions, and also be available to you after a session too. Just because you just completed a session doesn't mean that like it's you know, communication is over until you book again or until you see that person again. You know, things come up after a Reiki session. A lot of times my clients will begin to cry and they're not sure why. And that's because they've been dealing with things. Maybe they've been holding back emotions, and the Reiki energy is just allowing you to naturally release those things. So, you know, they should be able to call and say, or text and say, hey, you know, I'm feeling this way. Is that normal? Or, you know, just get support if need be. So a practitioner that makes themselves available to you after a session would be great. And someone that takes the time to speak to you and isn't in a rush. And if it's in person, doesn't make you feel rushed either. You know, you really should, as a practitioner, find a way to schedule it or schedule sessions in a way that clients don't feel like they have to run out of the room, because after the session, you know, you don't know how you're going to feel, and you want to have that time to talk about what you experienced during the session, because I like to speak to my clients after as well. You know, what did you feel? What sensations did you feel? Did any specific area stand out for you? And then I share with them what I felt, if anything, any sensations, any intuitive messages that I may have received. And, you know, we have that time to talk. So it's really important that that person carves out the right amount of time for your session, and most of all, not make you feel rushed. Any questions so far?
So if it is not inappropriate, how much do the sessions usually run?
Specifically with me or in general?
With you.
Okay. So generally, well, for example, a 30-minute session is 50. And I actually stopped offering 30-minute sessions a while ago, but I brought it back most recently because, you know, right now there's some people that are dealing with financial, you know, constraints, and they can really benefit from Reiki energy for stress management, anxiety, and different symptoms. So 30 minutes is just 50, and an hour is 100. And I generally encourage people to at least do a 60-minute session for the first time, because 30 minutes isn't really enough time to you know, you speak before, then you start the session, you speak after. It's not really enough time to really give a full, or get a full sense of what's going on and be able to tackle whatever areas may come up. Because again, you know, people really think that they know what's going on with their bodies. It's not until you start working on a client that you sense their energy, you feel different things. And sometimes you want to linger in those areas. And if it's 30 minutes, especially for the first time, they've never had a session before, it's just, I find that it's too abrupt. But of course, if someone, you know, if that's what works for them financially, you know, I'm always make it work.
Thank you.
No problem. And distant sessions, same thing. You know, I charge the same as in person. You know, there are people that charge different prices online. Same thing with classes. Everyone's different. Each practitioner is able to do their own thing. So you'll find a variety of different prices if you were to Google Reiki sessions in your area, for sure. Moving on to the next slide. Let's see, I think I have my thank you. Yeah, I have my thank you next. Couple things I wanted to share as well. I have additional notes. Is there any specific question that comes to mind for any of you? Anything that I may have said that you'd like me to elaborate on, or anything you've always wanted to know? Maybe you weren't comfortable asking anyone else?
So if one does session with you or long distance, are they sitting or lying down or standing or what? How
That's a
does
great
it?
question. Thank you for
how-
asking that. Yeah, no, thank you for asking. Honestly, I encourage my clients to actually be still, you know, because a lot of the times these are people that are always on the go and really haven't been tending to themselves, haven't been, you know, making self-care a priority. So those 30 minutes, those 60 minutes, it's best if you can just lie down. A lot of them like to meditate or journal during that time. And, you know, quite often people would, you know, still like to go about their daily routine. And that's the beauty of a distant Reiki session. You can be anywhere, you could do anything. You can go about your day. I had one client that was walking her dog during her Reiki session. Another client was cleaning the house. Another client, he was doing his homework. So you really do have that flexibility. And that's kind of one of the conveniences of a distant Reiki session. People like that, you know, they can do as they wish during that time, but that's their specific time. And that's a beautiful thing. Kind of forces them to slow down and dedicate that time to themselves, which is something that they most likely weren't doing before. Another thing I wanted to point out as far as selecting the right practitioner for you, make sure that the person is certified. You know, anyone can say that they're a Reiki practitioner, but are they certified? And how much experience have they had? You know, especially if they're going to offer you distance Reiki, you want to make sure that they actually have gone up in levels and they actually are certified, because that's a big one. A lot of people, you'll see that online. I'm a Reiki this, I'm a Reiki that, but you rarely see certification or proof of certification. So, you know, it's fine, perfectly fine to ask to see that, but certification or certified is the key word that you should look for. And as far as how to prepare for your first session, I want to share that as well. Again, comfortable clothing, an open mind, and water should be handy. You know, I want to say if possible, but it's definitely recommended that you have water. So typically a practitioner will have water available for the client, but you should also have your own water to continue to drink, you know, on your way home, and especially once you get home. When I say open mind, I mean, you know, not necessarily coming into a session or going into a session, you know, with expectations, but just being open to receiving Reiki energy and seeing what it does for you as an individual. And that's the reasons why I started doing community outreach and started doing events at libraries. You know, a lot of people have heard of Reiki. A lot of clients will tell me, oh, my girlfriend, you know, gets Reiki and she loves it. So I want to try it for myself, or I've heard this and I want to see if it will do that for me. You know, during my community events, I actually do demos as well. Because it's one thing to hear about the benefits and hear about Reiki, but it's another thing to actually experience it firsthand. And please know that your experience will be completely different than someone else's, you know, than your friends, than your significant other. Their experience is going to be completely different. And please know that the experience that you have with your first session may very well be different again, you know, your second time, because maybe the Reiki energy is focusing on another area that needs, you know, balancing. So no two sessions are the same. It really isn't. And each individual is unique. So that's why I say just have an open mind and not necessarily go into the session thinking anything. I had a client, for example, in Seattle, Washington. Her friend told her, like, oh, don't do it. You know, I don't believe in that. I don't think it's going to work. Don't do it. So like the night before the session, she was actually going to cancel, but she called another friend And the friend who was a Reiki practitioner as well, she said, no, that's true. You can send, energy via distance. It totally can work. So that's why she was open to moving forward with the session. But you see what I'm saying? Like that initial concern, that initial doubt coming from her friend, that already kind of, sets the tone of the session, and you're kind of going in like, I don't know if this is going to work. So there's really no opportunity for it to work, for you to have a good experience, because you're already doubting it. You're already closed mind. So that's why I say go into a session with an open mind, not necessarily having any expectations, not necessarily saying, well, my friend said that her knee stopped hurting her, so I hope mine does too. Just go in with an open mind and see how you feel. See how you feel. One thing I wanted to mention, that, one thing that may happen, but hasn't happened with my clients, is something called a healing crisis. And that's when a person may feel worse than they felt before the Reiki session. So naturally they want to blame the practitioner, but it's just your body, aligning your body, going through the energy shift, especially if it's your first session. So, a person may call a practitioner kind of panicking, like, oh my gosh, I feel horrible. Like, what did you do to me? And within 24 hours or less, it's usually over. Person usually feels better. And of course, it's recommended that if a person, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Okay. It's also recommended if a person is not feeling better or has any concerns, to definitely seek medical attention if they feel like they need to. But that can sometimes happen, especially if you have a lot going on and, maybe very emotional, and then you have the Reiki energy. It really helps to bring out and bring up different things that you may have been suppressing. So sometimes you may find yourself crying after a Reiki session. You're not sure why. Or, sometimes it could be even subtle, or as subtle as changes in your dreams. Like a lot of clients will say that they don't have nightmares anymore, or after that session that night they didn't have nightmares. It's more pleasant dreams. And I don't necessarily mean like dreaming of unicorns and roses, but it's not as negative as it usually is, or they wake up feeling more refreshed. They have clarity of the mind, things like that. I mentioned earlier that Reiki has been implemented in hospitals. It definitely started in New Jersey out here, and then it made its way to Manhattan, and now it's being included in palliative care, even hospice. Clients and patients and loved ones too, caregivers are actually recipients of Reiki energy as well, because they're under a lot of stress. So they're offering Reiki in these environments more now than before. And in addition to hospitals, as I mentioned, animal clinics, and then of course Reiki can be used for self-healing treatments and techniques. So in the case of a caregiver, maybe they want to learn Reiki for themselves or even for their loved one. That would be Reiki level 1, where you're focusing on yourself and getting to know what the Reiki energy can do for you. Other uses of Reiki, I did mention that you can Reiki your car. You can also use Reiki on animals. Is anyone familiar with that? Animal Reiki?
No.
No? Yeah. So just like with people, it's a different certification. I'm also certified in animal Reiki, but it can help rebuild trust, especially for animals who are rescues. Maybe an animal that was living in a shelter, or maybe in an abusive environment, and that person adopts that animal. Reiki energy can help to rebuild trust, and maybe if the owner of the animal or the parent of the animal is leaving or is away, and the animal's dealing with anxiety and feeling abandoned, Reiki energy can help with that too. And please know that you don't have to actually touch or physically touch the animal for them to receive Reiki energy. You can do it from a distance. Like I'm able to work in a zoo if I needed to, just from a distance. I could send Reiki energy to a tiger in a cage, you know what I mean? So you don't have to actually touch animals. I don't want you to think like, you have to touch wild animals. There are people that even use Reiki a lot on their horses before they ride them, and they find that it calms them down. So it's been pretty cool to see how animals react. Cats have a tendency of telling you when they're done, and animals in general. Like, for example, they will move away when they've had enough Reiki energy. They just simply get up and walk away. So animals are pretty cool with that. I like working with animals. You can also Reiki plants. If there's a plant that's not doing so well, you can actually send Reiki energy to it by placing your hands on the actual pot or even the root of the plant or tree. My father-in-law, they live in Florida. I went to visit a couple years ago, and I was kind of early in my training, and I remember I would offer to do Reiki sessions on him. He's like, "Oh, get away from me with that stuff. I don't know about that." He was scared because he didn't know. He wasn't educated on it, and he just didn't know what to expect. So when I was there in Florida, he's like, "You know what? I have a tree out front. It's dying. Why don't you go Reiki that?" Kind of like a joke. Didn't take me seriously or take the Reiki energy seriously. And I said, okay. I went outside and I actually sent Reiki energy to the tree. And then I left and returned to New York. And a few weeks later, he called me and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what you did, but that tree no longer needs to be chopped down. It's flourishing. It looks better than before. It looks better than my neighbors." He was so happy. And as a result of that, he became a believer in Reiki energy. So you can send Reiki energy to plants as well. If it's doing poorly, if it's starting to droop, some people sing to their plants, even talk to their plants. You can give Reiki energy to your plants. So I could actually work in a botanical garden, if I wanted to. That's a possibility as well. Reiki is pretty much, endless. I mean, the benefits are unlimited, and it's very diverse. You could definitely do a lot with it. And as I mentioned earlier, you can Reiki your car, to ask for safe travel. So I know we're coming to the end. I just wanted to share the 5 Reiki principles that Dr. Usui created. They're also referred to as precepts, and that can help you lead a healthier and happier life. And those 5 principles are: just for today, do not worry, do not anger, be kind, work honestly, and be grateful. Any questions? I so wish I could hear you. Again, feel free to use the chat feature. I would love to hear if you have any questions, as I've
Well,
heard from
thank you
Ida.
very much,
Haven't heard
Nadia. Does anybody have any last minute questions? Just as a reminder, our next session on January 7th will be on chakras, and January 21st will be healing crystals. So hopefully we will see you again. We will see you again in January.
Yes, looking forward to that.
All right.
Thank each
Well,
of you
thank
for
you so
joining.
much.